Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Mm. Hey, I got my bandsaw blade, so I'll be coming out with that video pretty quickly here on making that drawer with the trays in it. Oh, let me show you while she's here and I got her attention. Oh, look at this monster. Look how big she's getting. Oh, yeah, she's still a sweetie. What a pain, huh? And she definitely has a mind of her own. She's as sassy with Annie as Annie is with her. She don't put up with it. They fight over little pieces of rawhide. I cut up little pieces of rawhide and give it to them. And they chew on, give them something to chew on. They always seem to end up wanting the same piece, as you might guess. And a battle ensues. And she does steal it from her. And then she'll turn around and steal it back. But they bite at each other when you try to take it. So the rule, I guess it's really weird to watch those two. It's actually hilarious, but it's definitely a battle, except for that barking. And I reached over her first, and I slap her on the back end, and she just turned and started barking and biting at me. Like, how dare you do that? And it's like, she's really sassy. Anyway, they're working this all out. They were able to get along quite well. They played together outside at times, and at times there's this battle going on. Once I can get them both interested in separate pieces, then it's peace and quiet in heaven here. So anyway, I definitely have a challenge going there. So anyway, I started off, I'd reach over and slap her. Now she learned to stay out of reach of my hand when she's barking. So then I just taught her the little towel trick. You stop the barking. But she's still stubborn about barking. So she's learning. But that barking is bad. Drive you crazy. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I love her to death. I think she's a lot of fun around here. And watching these two sometimes is just hilarious. And how big is she? Oh my God. Ah, look at this monster. She don't just sit in your lap so comfortably anymore. In fact, she's definitely not a lap dog anymore. So, but she, hey, there it goes. They just, if you're watching for just, oh yeah. No, she barks at her. Hey, no barking. No barking. Yeah, still got to do it. Hey, no barking. She's learning. So anyway, so right now they're both interested in the same piece of rawhide. And what's funny, that rawhide was sitting right here for 3 days. And I got Annie interested in it. Now they're fighting over it. So, yeah, they're like little kids. They're like two sisters. Anyway, it's actually funny to watch. And they're a lot of fun to have around. She's still got a little bit to learn about barking. And she needs to learn a little more on the house training. She's not quite housebroken yet, but she is now using the little pads we set out. So what accidents she has, they pretty much are on one of those things. So it makes it a lot better than it was before. So I've been taking them out. It's one of the things that's really funny. You know who thinks it's funny, because to get her to start going outside, I used to always say, let's go outside, get excited. And they'd both jump up and excited. And they'd run outside with me. And I'd spend a few minutes outside in the backyard while they'd do their business. And then we'd come back in. Sometimes if they get involved in something, I'll come back in, leave them out there. And they'll stay out there for 5 or 10 minutes on their own. So it just depends. So anyway, she's learned to go out in the backyard a lot more. Going through the doggy doors, it's now pretty easy for her. She still has to up and then teeter over it. She's still a little too short to just go right through it like Annie does. But I don't think it'll be long. That won't be a problem at all. But she definitely knows and uses full access to both the house and here in the backyard. She knows the full territory at this point. And she does go out there and look around a lot. So anyway, it is a treat to have them around. I want to give a shout out real quick to Murph at Murph's Workshop. He just sent me an OTB finger fidget. So it says Shop Dogs on it. It has my name and OTB. So anyway, thank you, Murph. But what he was really doing is he was sending me some of this. he saw my video on the OTB vise and he just loves it, and he's made a couple for himself. It is a great vise. If you don't know that vise, you got to look it up. Just put OTB vise in YouTube and it should pop up, and you'll see it's easy to make. It's very handy, and it's one of my favorite benchtop vices that I have, as far as being able to use it versatily to hold almost anything. So but I always use sandpaper on the jaws and on any place I didn't want it to non-skid, except on the base of that I was using a silicone cooking pad that I cut up and stapled it on, because sandpaper really would tear the heck out of your surface around the dog hole. Anyway, he says that this stuff really works well, so he sent me some samples of it, and I've been looking at it. And thank you, Murph. This is really kind of exciting news. I didn't know this was out there. It's PSA on one side, you peel and stick. Excuse me. And the other side's a rubber, and it's really new. It really grips real well. So I think it's going to work real well, except I'm not sure how it'll do under the dust conditions of around wood dust, how bad it'll embed, and then it'll start sliding a lot. We'll see how well it cleans up and not gets embedded with wood fibers, and hopefully it'll continue to have that non-slip surface even after it's exposed, and cleanup will be easy, but we'll see. And I'm anxious to try it, so I'm going to take this stuff and I'm going to make a couple of push pads for my jointer, and I'm going to use them over there first. That's probably the best place to get a feel for them. And if it works out, then I think I'll make a new gripper with this stuff and to see how it works. I'll leave a link to it, so if you want to try this stuff too and see how it works for you, I found it on Amazon, so I'll leave a link to that. So if you're interested in trying it yourself, you can just get it off of my link. You can find the link. You can find what I'm talking about here. But I think this stuff is definitely worth pursuing, and it might be a great replacement to get a non-slick surface using something besides sandpaper. So thank you, Murph, for turning me on to that. I'd never seen or heard it. I hadn't even been looking. So, but he opened up my eyes to at least get a look at it. So we're going to figure it out. And I think that's about, well, there's one more thing real quick. The Ryobi battery. I think I'm going to start a series back into that, because I've learned a lot about the Ryobi battery, and I am now convinced that you can actually hook them up in parallel safely, as long as they are fully charged when you plug them into each other. They will seek a level, and I think you'll actually be able to use, you can hook in parallel the 5 amp battery and the 9 amp battery both, and draw off of them. It'll draw equally off of them and drain them down equally. So the 9 amp, it's going to draw more amps from than the 5 amp, but it'll keep them equalized on their voltage all the way down, so that they'll stay equal and should run out theoretically close to the same time when they reach their full capacity of discharge, or close to it together. So I think I'm going to try to make another battery pack like the single one that you've seen me make a couple times. Only this one is going to be quite different. No charging on it. If you want to charge a Ryobi battery, I still use the factory Ryobi chargers. But that's another subject too, because they used to brag that you could charge a Ryobi battery in an hour. Well, when they had only 2 amp hour batteries to begin with, was the biggest one they had, they could make that claim. Now, I plug in the 9 amp hour battery. It takes 4.5 hours to charge that up from full discharge. So that's quite a long time to charge up one of those. But that's because of the way they charge them. And so we're going to get into that. Once I figure out the fuel gauge and how to keep it updated when I charge it up, so that when it's fully charged, I'll know it too. Once I get that to where I'm comfortable with how it works, then I may start incorporating charging capabilities in my power packs. But right now, charging them, I just use the factory way of charging them. And when I discharge them, I'm probably going to try to gang a bunch of them together in one little power pack, so that if you have only one battery in the power pack, you don't want to draw more than like a couple hundred watts out of it. But if you plug 3, 4, 5, up to 6, and if you plug in 6 batteries in there, you can get up to 54 amp hours of battery capacity out of that, which is like 975 watt hours. So you get, that's quite a little bit of power out of a little Ryobi batteries group. But also, I think I'll be able to take those batteries and put the 5 amp and the 9 amp and run them in parallel at the same time. As long as they're in the same state of charge when they're running in parallel, you shouldn't have any problems. So you want to make sure you start with fully charged batteries if you're going to put them in the box. But I'm also going to be monitoring it. I'm going to set up some monitoring so you can watch the individual batteries of what they're doing. And I'll also have an output where it draws on all of them at the same time. I don't know what she's doing back there. She's doing something. But you want to be able to draw on them all at the same time so that you can actually get more amperage. Because if you remember, I did a test and I pulled down both a 9 amp and a 5 amp battery. I pulled 10 amps out of them from fully charged to fully discharged. And then I charged them back up. And they seem to still be fine. Did I hurt them? Not noticeably. Did I shorten the life of them? Probably. But I wouldn't normally do that. But that told me a lot about these batteries that I didn't know before. Because I don't know about you, but I can't find much information on Ryobi batteries out there. I've seen people take a couple of them apart. But as to what they really can do, what you shouldn't do with them, but they are basically lithium ion phosphate batteries. And they follow those same rules, quite honestly. So as long as, and the BMS on the battery will take care of most of the things to protecting it. So I'm not going to burn one up all of a sudden. If worst case scenario, I would damage the BMS on one. So I'm going to get more daring with them because I'd love to see what you can do with them. Because think about it. If you could take all the Ryobi batteries in your shop and you're going to go away for a weekend, go camping, you can take them all, plug them into one little power pack, all fully charged, throw it in your vehicle, go away for the weekend, and you can have over 50 amp hours of battery with you that's portable that you can use all weekend. Not bad. So then we'll start working on how to charge them without them having to charge on these. Because we are right now really stuck with charging them. I am anyway, charging them from a factory charger, because I know charging those things, the rules are a little more strict of how you got to be careful than they are with discharging them. So, and you can damage one and shorten the life of it pretty quickly by overcharging it or charging it too fast. So we're going to work on that. We'll see what we can find out. But like I said, there isn't a whole lot of information about that out there, so we'll just have to see. But eventually I'd like to make one of these packs that you can charge it by plugging it in, or use it discharge at the same time. Or you can pull the batteries out and use them individually and bring them back, charge them up, and put them back in. So I think maybe we'll, I'm really working on trying to get somewhere where you can integrate them all together. And I think there'll be some very special rules you have to follow when you put them in parallel. But I think maybe we can actually get a system going to use these batteries and multiple of them at a time. So instead of being able to only draw 200 watts out of a battery pack from a Ryobi battery, you gang them up in a parallel system. You can pull 30 amps out of the system, out of that instead. If you have 6 batteries there, you're only pulling 5 amps of battery. So I think you can get a pretty powerful power pack from this battery bank. Anyway, but it will only, at this point, my design is going to be only to pull juice out of them, not to recharge them. That'll still be done the old-fashioned way. So stay tuned, one step at a time. Eventually we may do more, and we may get into charging them and be able to incorporate that into our supercharger, our super pack, because eventually I want to make the Ryobi super pack where you can get a whole bunch of them in one battery pack and be able to charge them and discharge them from that battery pack at will. And you can pull one out individually, use it, put it back in, charge it up, and then put it back into the system right on the unit. That's eventually what I'd like to be able to do. But I got to learn some things as I go along rather than just building the whole thing and assuming it will work properly. So we're going to build it in stages is what we're going to do. And I think it'll be a very interesting project. So if you're into any kind of electronics, your help is appreciated, because there's a lot of things I don't know. I know enough electrical to be dangerous, I guess you'd say. Excuse me. Because most of my electronic experience really comes from the automotive industry. When I was younger, I was in the automotive, and I worked on a lot of automotive electrical systems. In fact, I became the guru a lot of times. That most shops I was at, I would be the one they'd always throw electrical problems at whenever you got a car with electrical problems, because I seem to be able to fix them when most mechanics look at electrical. Oh, I hate electrical. I tend to do it. So that's where my knowledge of it comes from. And I'm hoping to try to translate that into doing really utilize some things with the Ryobi. So I think it'll be exciting. Stay tuned for that. If you have any suggestions about that or any thoughts, let me know. Also, I have a light that I bought. It's an LED string light or something like that they call it. It's 3 lights in one. They're each like 500 lumens. And the whole, I called it Medusa. So if you go to my channel and put in search for Medusa, that thing will pop up. And I think I'm going to tear that apart, because I like it, but I don't like it. For one thing, they're all strung together, and I'd like to cut those cords and have some kind of barrel jack to plug them in, so they could plug one into another and reach out further, or you can plug them individually right into the base unit and use them individually. So I want to increase what that thing does, but I need to understand a little bit more about it to be able to do that. But that'll be an interesting project, is to take that thing and make it, what I would say is make it better than it is, because it's got some definite shortcomings that I really don't like about it. But as far as a light, the thing is awesome. So I think maybe it's a good solid base to make something that really would be even better before we're done. So we got to tear it apart to make it better. So stay tuned. That's going to be a project I'll do sooner or later too. And I think that's going to be a very interesting project. The nice thing about it is, I can't remember the number on that. If I find it out before I put this video out, I'll put it in the description what it is, what model number it is. But they don't make that anymore anyway. So if I tear this thing up and it doesn't work, oh well, it's not going to be a major tragedy. So, but we're going to see where that goes, and I'll take you along with it so you can learn something about electronics, troubleshooting it the way, the OTB way, I guess you'd say. So anyway, that's about it. I think that's everything I kind of wanted to talk about. The only other thing I will say real quick, I actually have a question. Hey, Murph, how did you get my address to send me that? I don't remember giving it to you. So anyway, I was just curious. I hadn't really done anything with it. And I don't mind that he sent that to me. I love it. But I don't remember giving him my address. So how did he get that? Anyway, I want to thank everybody for stopping by. If you have any thoughts or comments about any of this, just leave it down below in the comments. If you learned something here, you like this video, hit that like button. Lets me know I'm doing the right thing. Most importantly, though, please come back again, because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys again very soon.